And if the Nets get bounced in the second round, I'm calling Masai Ujiri directly. Immediately. I'm texting him at night to the point where his wife has to check the phone to make sure that I'm not some side chick trying to get at him. I am going for Masai Ujiri, a proven commodity who knows what it takes to build a championship and knows how important defense is and knows how to build a culture, not talk about building a culture, and save this project that is the Brooklyn Nets. Because the other thing that could happen is that Sean Marks really doesn't know what he's doing. And this experiment is a major failure. Those guys don't re-sign. They go other places. And we don't have a draft pick till 2028. I don't think it's crazy. So Sam, talk me off my off the ledge.
I mean, look, I'm always gonna have a softer spot for Sean because those summers and seasons after the Billy King trade were so miserable, and the most miserable I've ever been as a fan, that it's hard for me to.
But contemplate this though, Sam. If based off of what we've given for Harden, right, and based off of what we had, it wasn't like it was just Darren Williams and Joe Johnson and that's it, right? We had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And then we executed that trade. We executed that trade, and what we have now, if it fails, count up the draft picks, count up the years of pick swaps. It's worse than how Billy King left us.
Yeah, but we also got to see. I mean, we got to see what happens for the next. I mean, they at least have these guys for at least two playoffs. I mean,
they had 3-year contracts. This is Kevin Durant's second year, Kyrie Irving's second year. This isn't their first year.
No. I'm saying they can't opt out after this year. They can opt out after next year. So they signed 4-year deals with the fourth year as an opt out. So this is year 2. Next year's year 3.
Right. So that means if you punt on this year, if you just go, well, the problems are too big to fix this year, but at least we have James Harden and we got Sean Marks and we'll go into next year. If you go into next year, there's no turning back.
Oh, I see. I understand your point better.
You see what I'm saying? You only have one more year after this year.
But that's assuming that this year is a waste. Which to be honest, I'm probably more bullish on this year than you are because I'm really 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 trying to suck in like a lot of my just general basketball NBA instincts and trying to adapt a little bit to what this new NBA crap is and what I truly see is a team that gets up for certain games and doesn't get up for other games. And does that mean that they could absolutely get smacked in a 7-game series against a team like the Hawks, who's just working their ass off and outworks them 100%? And it could be an absolute disaster. But until it happens, it's hard for me to jump off the cliff yet because they're going to go into every playoff series with probably, honestly, in almost every single Eastern playoff series, they're going in with 3 of the 4 best guys. So it's
all right. So let's.
It's hard for me to lose it.
Okay, no, sound. That's why you're my partner. You're here to when I say crazy things, you're here to say say why I'm crazy. But let's look at this analytically, right? True or false? Have the Nets had the worst defensive rating in NBA history since James Harden has gotten here?
True.
True or false? Out of the 9 out of the 10 games that James Harden has had, had here, the only game that you could take out of that I forgot which, but 9 out of 10 of those games have we allowed a team to score 125 points or more.
God, that's brutal.
So I'm just saying, right now, the Nets are not just bad at defense. We are all time, with KD playing too, in the history of modern basketball, bad at defense.
But here, this is the only thing I'm going to interject though is don't you feel like we're doing a little bit of like the definition of insanity, which is like basically doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting a different result. Like the entire league thought after the two Cavs losses, this is a disaster. Then the team I know they were hurt, but then the team beats the Heat twice, and they have that great win against the who do you call it? Against the
Clippers.
The Clippers, yeah, against the Clippers, and everyone in the league is like, wow, like Kyrie actually buckled down on D, Harden actually buckled down on D, and now they've played like a couple of shitty teams again. KD's not playing, and the
Sixers are not shitty.
What?
The Sixers are.
Oh
not
no,
shitty.
Sixers. But KD didn't play at least. But so my point is like that was basically one of the first games they've had this year where they've actually lost to a playoff team, but it also didn't have KD in it. So like. To me, it's just like look, I never like teams that feel like they can turn it on and turn it off. That's what the Clippers were like last year, and I bought into it.
I know, but that's where I'm going to stop you, Sam, because I feel like effort is esoteric. I feel like you can't measure it, you can't quantify it. But what you can quantify is teams averaging 70 points in the paint against you. That's 20 points above league average. This is unconscionable. Like, if it was a little bit bad, if we were eking out losses, if we were having brain farts and losing, that's not what's happening. Teams are punishing us with 440 points.
Totally. No, yeah, you're right.
And so my last analytical question, because we're running over time, is can you win the championship without defense? Do you have any, and I'm not saying it from the feeling part. I guess you could technically, right? But based off of all of the years of history of NBA championships that you could remember, that you know of, I know defensive of teams that won championships with defense alone. The Detroit Pistons, and I'm not talking about the Bad Boys. The Bad Boys had Isaiah Thomas; they could score a little bit, but those Detroit teams that came after the Nets, who went to the finals, they barely could score. They didn't have supreme scoring talent. So I can think of teams that won championships with defensive alone. Sam, with your analytical mind, can you win a championship with this level of defense?
I think if they, I mean, it's tough, right? Because I think if they play the way they played in the Clippers game, then I give them somewhat of a shot to win a title. If they play the way they played in 90% of the games this year, then no.
Hell no. The Clippers game, I want you to go back and look at those stats, and we'll talk about it again because we're going to point back to that Clippers game. The Clippers beat themselves in that game because they tried to jump shoot with us. They only scored 50 points in the paint, which is a lot. But if you look at those points in the paint, it was manageable because they tried to score. They have superstars, and they tried to jump shoot with us. Teams in the NBA have now figured out if they take it to the basket, we cannot do anything with it. Anything. And therein lies the problem. And my thing is, I want to say, you know what? This is a great experiment. We're going to find out if ultra offense is going to be able to overcome having horrible defense.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, what you're seeing with these teams, the effort that they're giving is nothing compared to the effort that winning teams are going to give you in the playoffs. For me, that has second round exit all over it. Or more humiliating, a first round exit. Because what are the teams that's going to be in the eighth seeds, that's going to play the play-in games? It's going to be these guys. And maybe we'll turn it on, and maybe we'll be able to eke by. But I'm telling you, then once we get in the second round, unless we get the Boston, because I feel like Boston is small too. But if we get anybody else that's not Boston, if we get the Heat, if we get Jimmy Butler, Sam, I'm sorry. Like, this team needs an exorcism. There's bad juju in here. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, my last point, which me and you have been in lockstep on, is what I think, like, when someone writes a book, which someone will, one of the really good beat writers that the Nets have about this era, what all of us want to know more than anything is being on the fly on the wall in Sean Marks' office and being like, dude, what else did you have on the table when you gave up every asset, both draft picks and players, for Harden? And what could have those 10 assets, if you include like the 7 or 8 picks plus LeVert plus Allen, if those things were sprinkled into different players, what could have that turned into? Because all I know is we basically did a 10 for 1.
If you do I'm emotional. If he did his job, right? Because we're supposed to have the best analytics guys. We're supposed to have the most scouts all around the planet. If he did the hard job, because I feel like he just said, oh, I have 3 superstars down. Psh, throw whoever in there. I'm good. And that's the way it looks like to me. I can't. None of us knew Saddiq Bey was going to be what he is. So it's unfair to say, oh, we traded Saddiq Bey for Landry Shamet. But if you know your team can't defend in the paint, and the best you could do is Landry Shamet, you have a faulty philosophy. You're not preparing yourself to guard Anthony Davis in the playoffs. You're not serious if Taurean Prince is who you think would have got that done. So we're not gonna do 3 things tonight. We're gonna keep this brief. I think we had a lot to get off our chest, and I think there's a lot we're gonna see. We, a lot of good people who talk basketball know what they're talking about and know this team are saying, oh, you can't really judge the team unless you have KD. I think honestly, that's the best time to judge the team. There's major flaws. There's things that's got to get fixed, and I don't dislike Sean Marks, the man, but I've 3 years to build a front court, and it's not. I'm not saying give up on this team that quick. The reason why you have to think about trading one of these superstars is because if you go all the way in, the Nets have nowhere to return. We are going to be bad for at least a decade. They're going to start calling us the New Jersey Nets again. And no slight to New Jersey. It's just the fact that we're a forgettable team. We are on the brink. We are on the brink, Nets fans. Let's hope KD comes back soon. Sam, any closing thoughts?
No, I can't stop thinking about what other moves they could have made that would have been seen as, like, even if the Zach Lowe's of the world were like, oh, that's too many picks to give up or whatever, but if they at least had addressed something. I was just thinking now as we close out, what if they even said to Orlando, hey, Orlando, we'll give you all the picks we were going to give you, plus salary filler, but you give us Vucevic and Aaron Gordon. That works way better than getting Harden.
Listen, they could have did something simple like here's player X, any of them, including Jared Allen. They could have got Kevin Love. They could have got Kevin Love. Kevin Love would have done so many great things for this team.